I'm Nick Mancuso. On this episode of Forces Beyond, skepticism and the paranormal.
I have never found any legitimacy in any of the psychic claims.
When I first started studying the paranormal seriously, my first impression was, wow, this is all true.
It doesn't matter how I'm attacked. I've done this work. I know what I know.
The believers get very angry when you try to question them.
They reject most claims of the paranormal. For them, the phenomenon of alien abduction is best looked at as a symptom of sleep disorder. Near-death experience is best described as unusual brain activity, and claims of hauntings by ghosts are simply impossible to prove. They are skeptics, and they're part of a long and respected philosophical tradition. But what makes the skeptical mind tick? Are skeptics just curmudgeons, suspicious of anything new and unusual? Or do they understand something others don't?
It was nothing like I had ever seen on this planet before.
I went back a few hundred years and was a gypsy.
The experience took me into a spaceship of sorts.
When we're talking about vampires, we understand that there is a being who's supposedly dead.
On the very first occasion, it was just a glow around the statue.
I knew that I was dying.
Then followed with apparitions.
They led me on a very long journey into darkness.
It really changed my life.
My type of skepticism says, prove it.
People can claim anything.
There's nothing supernormal, abnormal in the universe. It's only our ignorance about what is normal.
There is, in my opinion, no evidence whatsoever to support the claims of alien abduction.
Critical thinking is the only therapy for nonsense.
They have an all-male, all-white, all-middle class, all-materialist view.
We hear all of these wild claims.
I can't make somebody believe.
I don't think that everybody wants to believe.
These were gray beings, large heads, large eyes.
There is no evidence whatsoever that there are any aliens as defined by the UFO nuts.
I think people ridicule this because it's frightening. We're not in control.
I wish they were, I know, and they don't.
The whole idea of the paranormal probably is an enormous waste of time.
Those are tough words from parapsychologist Dr. Susan Blackmore, considering she began investigating the paranormal as a steadfast believer.
It's hard to remember when I first became interested in the paranormal because as a child, I know I played around with the Ouija board and read a few books and so on. And when I first went up to Oxford as a student, I joined the Psychic Research Society there. But nothing really grabbed me until during that first term as a student, I had a dramatic out-of-the-body experience. We were sitting around, three of us, listening to music as we did in those hippie days, and I was a little bit out of it in a way, and I was going down this tunnel. Dark tunnel made of trees or leaves, and at the end I was rushing towards this wonderful light, and I was taken up with this until one of my friends said to me, "Would you like a cup of coffee?" And I couldn't answer. I was so much in this tunnel that somehow the body didn't seem to answer. And then my other friend said, "Where are you, Sue?" And I was on the ceiling looking down. And I could see Vicky out making the coffee in the kitchen, myself and my friend sat there in the room, see the top of our heads, the whole thing. And I went off through the walls, up through the ceiling, floated around Oxford, looked at all the roofs of the colleges, and then went off over the ocean. Interestingly, I took particular note of the colour of the tiles, the gutters, all these sorts of details from above, and went and looked at them the next day, and they were practically all wrong. And that really began my questioning about it. Well, hang on a minute, it was absolutely real.
Susan's experience fueled her desire to know more about the paranormal. She went on to earn Britain's first ever doctorate in parapsychology and has become one of the country's foremost skeptical celebrities.
Do psychic phenomena really happen? It was to try and answer that question that I became a parapsychologist. People often ask me why I go on the television and try and put forward these horrible views of mine that there's no life after death and there probably aren't any psychic phenomena and so on. It's because I think that people are seriously misled by their own experiences.
Susan is the ideal skeptic in that she's been there. Unless a parapsychologist has been through the unique experience of having it all totally reversed, either by accident or in a sudden burst of inspiration, and then finding out that it wasn't as expected, then that parapsychologist has not learned a prime lesson.
But is the opposite true? Can skeptics become believers?
For many, many years, I had just shut down any kind of spiritual belief. It was like, yeah, you're born, you die, you know, that's it. And didn't have any strong feelings or about the paranormal that were positive, only really negative.
In 1979, Shannon Ray was a free-spirited young singer when she was involved in a devastating car accident.
We were in the middle lane of a 3-lane highway, and a drunk driver came on an on-ramp and impacted with the passenger door of our car. The force of that propelled me out of the car, and my head whipped back and hit the pavement. Then there was just blackness. The best description that I can give of what I experienced next was that I felt as though I was going down a long hallway. As I moved down the corridor, I was looking into this beautiful white light. It was like looking into pure energy. It was a living thing, and it had these beautiful prisms of undulating color in it. And it was so beautiful. I wanted to get there because it was just compelling. There was this joyful, peaceful, wonderful feeling of coming home, and that's where I really, really wanted to be. And that would be wonderful if I could stay there. There was a sense of weighing and balancing that came. There was also a sense of having made a commitment to being in the life experience. And the scales tipping, finally, I had it was like a, whew. I knew that I was coming back to life. As soon as I had that feeling, it was like I was a puppet and somebody had cut my strings and I was falling out of an airplane at 35,000 feet and I was going to hit the ground. And then coming, just slamming into this feeling of my body. I was being rolled to the morgue at the time, and there was an orderly rolling me. And when I sat up on the gurney, he asked in a very shocked voice, if I was alive. And then I heard him take off down the hallway, just making tracks to get away from me. I never did see him again.
Obviously, when I say I doubt there are any paranormal phenomena, I don't think there's any life after death. People don't like it. They want there to be such things.
I truly 100% believe that I walked onto the other side and that I died and I came back.
I think one can live better by living in the moment, accepting death for what it is, and getting on with it.
We are souls inhabiting a body for a period of time to learn some lessons and to grow.
The argument is really about what we are as human beings. I think that we are just lumps of flesh evolved for no reason at all. And the real spiritual path is to try and cope with that, to live in the moment, to accept things the way they are and not fight against them.
Despite the intensity and vividness of Susan Blackmore's out-of-body experience, her subsequent investigation led her to doubt the validity of her experience and paranormal claims in general. What can we learn from this? Is the lesson that we can't always trust our experience to tell us what is real?
Just think about your life and your goals as they are now.
As far as your career is concerned, just about anything you do will come out all right.
I see excitement, and again, happiness is abounding here.
The left side of everybody's body is negative, the right side is positive.
Having some marital problems here between...
For many believers, a psychic's advice is adhered to almost religiously, and palm readings, horoscopes, and other methods are considered guides to their destiny.
I see brand new beginnings. I have to tell you, I do see a baby boy around you. I just got a rush. I just got shivers all around you, and I was thinking, like, wow.
One of the dangers that I'm most concerned about is to do with clairvoyants, tarot readers, astrologers, that kind of thing. Because although people deny that it affects them, we know that people do base important life decisions on what those people say.
I see happiness around you, and I see love around you. Thank you for coming.
The way I met my husband and moving outside the country and changing jobs, it astonished me.
Astonishing? Perhaps. But Susan demonstrates that a tarot reading can be made vague enough to apply to anyone.
Oh, well, temptation it looks like here. As though something's being offered to you and you're sitting back and thinking, I don't know whether to take this or not. Perhaps we can find out by looking at this card up here. Well, that's very encouraging. That's sort of emotions coming to fruition.
I think everybody's got a right to their own opinion, so I don't try to convince them one way or the other.
I know two things with, I think, a fair amount of authority. One, how people fool themselves. Two, how they are fooled by others.
What you find is that if you've got a genuine psychic, they're going to be in the business for a long time.
Okay, your future is rosy, though, and as far as your life is concerned, how long are you going to live? You get to live to be about 107.
Dr. Ray Hyman, psychology professor, claims palm readers' successes are usually based on persons making their own sense of what the psychic says.
When I'm telling people things they want to hear, they're moving towards me and they're pushing their hands towards me. When I'm telling them things they don't want to hear, they're pulling their hands away. And it's like they're help constructing the reading, and I'm getting feedback from it. Also, I see a strong independence from your parents. This
did surprise me. He was very accurate with what he said about my family and my independence.
Lisa, I have to tell you something now, that in a sense, I'm not for real. I'm not a psychic, and I don't believe in palm reading.
If you've got somebody who's a fake, the public isn't a fool, you know? They will not prosper. They will not do well for very long.
I'm using common sense, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that you're creative, and you can take what I'm giving you and mold it to your own self, and then with your reactions, I can pick up on the way you are reacting to it, and by the end, we're in sync.
Psychic deception or psychic fraud has always been really a plague upon parapsychology from the very beginning because it's easy to simulate the phenomena that we're interested in.
James Randi, professional magician and psychic debunker, is famous for his work investigating the claimed paranormal powers of Uri Geller and other psychics.
In most cases, of course, people don't get fooled by others, they fool themselves. The audience allows itself to be talked into or lulled into a sense of something or other.
Randy demonstrates how a spoon, sawed in half, can easily appear as if it is being bent by psychokinetic powers.
It seems to be turning. Liquid, hold your hands beneath it. I think it's going to fall into two pieces.
It's not really, quote, psychic fraud. It's fraud in a psychic environment.
I did all sorts of experiments, both in the lab with other students and with young children and so on, looking for these paranormal phenomena, and I didn't find them.
We can't believe in paranormal forces without evidence.
I think that many good people are self-deceived.
No amount of belief establishes a fact.
And facts are what skeptics are after. Hundreds of members of PsyCop, an organization of skeptics, gathered in Seattle, Washington, where the hot topic was alien abduction. One of the prominent skeptics at the conference was Carl Sagan.
Skeptically, almost certainly wrong.
The funniest thing about PsyCop is their name, Committee for Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. Committee for Scientific Investigation? I thought these were the most pompous gang of dogmatists since the Holy Inquisition. And anybody who disagrees with them must be either crazy or lying.
If you look at the skeptics movement and what's happened with parapsychology, it's easy to get the impression that it's all antagonism, but it isn't.
Pulitzer Prize-winning author and Harvard professor of psychology, John Mack, has studied over 90 cases of alien abduction and went to Seattle to defend his evidence of this phenomenon.
In the case of the abduction phenomenon, I have not any evidence to suggest these people are really talking about something else, or that they're lying, or they're distorting. In fact, there is not a single abduction case. in not just the ones I've studied, but the ones every other investigator has looked at, that has revealed behind it some other explanation.
In Mac's book, Appeared Abductions, I was really stunned in one sense. Although he's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard, I think surely he should make a distinction between the fantasies that people have and whether or not they're real. And I don't think he's made that distinction.
Dr. Mack came alone, defending his position on abductions against an unsympathetic audience of skeptics.
At the PsyCop convention in Seattle, one of the most controversial of all paranormal claims, alien abduction, was put to the test by the toughest skeptical minds in America.
I don't think that Mac presents any challenge to science.
He's abandoned the rigorous standards of scientific validation.
We have a great amount of evidence that we can't account for. We have the consistency of the stories. We have the physical findings on people's bodies, the tight association with UFOs.
What I want to do is see if we can raise some questions together.
There's evidence that cannot be accounted for.
Dr. Mack has contradicted or violated the most elementary principles of scientific inquiry.
There's no challenge. He's making a silly claim that has no basis in fact.
The alien abduction phenomenon has a quality of its own. I think it's subtle. I think we are dealing with something which may not be of this world, but enters into this world.
John Mack was ready to debate his theories in an open forum.
There is a kind of hysteria around all of this. Is there some fear of an irrational chaos if we admit sometimes that we don't know something?
What Mack didn't know was that Donna Bassett, one of his own subjects, had a very different viewpoint.
Now, that's interesting, considering the fact that I've never seen a UFO. I'm sorry, under any circumstances whatsoever, nor have I ever been abducted. I faked it.
Bassett, a journalist, had participated in the study in order to investigate Mack's methods and motives.
Ms. Bassett says that it happened, in other words, whether she did in fact hoax or whether she has in fact had these experiences.
He wouldn't let go in front of 750 hard-line skeptics that I was an abductee.
I signed up for that PsyCop meeting many months ago in a kind of maybe foolishly exuberant moment.
But I was now in denial.
They sprung her on me without telling me.
What was surprising was his response. It was that I had ambushed him and that there had been this big conspiracy.
I mean, the whole thing I don't think really was effective as an attack.
So don't you dare talk about ad hominems to me when you make these foul innuendos. Yeah, but the yelling at me doesn't get anywhere.
That panel showed how high feelings are running on this issue. And it's I think, still at the stage of burgeoning. We don't know where this whole thing's going to go.
I guess it's inevitable that I would be attacked, but I mean, that only means that at least somebody's listening to the issue.
There's nothing new here about this. Every culture except this one, and this one in the last 200 or 300 years has known there is an unseen world. There is a world of other dimensions, of other realities. We don't have anything in our scientific upbringing to deal with that.
I think that Mac is just colossally gullible.
John was convinced that I was an abductee.
He's an intelligent man. He's perceptive. He's well-educated.
He wanted aliens. He wanted specific creatures. He wanted something that was definitive.
It's a major phenomenon for our time and is an experience that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are having.
You cannot tell me that hundreds of thousands of UFOs visiting the Earth and zipping through the skies and everything don't show up and don't leave anything behind.
I want to pose some questions to PsyCop. I want to know why so much vehemence in all of this. Why
well, I wanted to see what the sort of extreme form of the materialist scientific view would be. I mean, even the form where they would actually attack anybody who made a claim of what they would call the paranormal. I wanted to see what the worst kind of scientific materialism might be like. It was quite interesting to me, and it wasn't such a terrible experience in the totality.
If we were to follow Mac's suggestions, then angels, past life regression and demons and everything else is true. Where do you draw the line?
Of course it's possible there are phenomena that we don't understand and we don't have rules for. Show me.
If you're a skeptic, all you have to do is get on board the prevailing scientific worldview, and however flawed, it is the dominant view. It's where all the jobs are, it's where the money is, it's where the prestige is.
That feeling of commitment and excitement of coming back to the life experiences just never, ever left me.
I don't think studying the paranormal is a waste of time. The experiences themselves happen. But paranormal theories just don't explain anything.
I guess science will never believe it until somebody digs their way up out of a cemetery plot and gets interviewed.
Throw those trivial paranormal theories away, and what are we left with? Ah! And that's where I come in, because I want to find better explanations for the experiences.
As long as there are phenomena that defy conclusive explanation, the debate between believers and skeptics will continue. Near-death experience, predicting the future, and alien abduction are just 3 of many mysteries that will continue to inspire wonder and generate debate. Journey with us each week to the borders of the known and the unknown on Mysterious Forces Beyond.